Mesquite family, over the Christmas break, the state of Texas released the A through F accountability scores, and they showed exactly what I told you they would show before the break. And today what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about that, but before I begin, I want to encourage you to go ahead and contact your representatives, blow up their phones, make sure they understand how you feel about this system, because this system was designed with a political purpose in mind, not an educational purpose. The political purpose behind this is simple. They wanted to show that Texas schools were failing and therefore create the space for voucher legislation and charter school expansion. In December, 4% of the schools across the state of Texas were considered IR. And as you know, that means they needed some kind of improvement. They did not meet the standard. After the release, with the same set of data, 35% of the schools in the state of Texas were considered D and F schools. That cannot happen unless you have an intended outcome. One of the intended outcomes was to create a forced distribution. That is, to create a bell curve. And I told you that this would happen, and our commissioner assured us that that would not occur. But yet I'm here to show you that it absolutely did occur. In Domain 4, we have a forced distribution revealed for middle schools and elementary schools quite easily. The first thing that bothers me about it is that we were being judged in that domain, our elementaries and middle schools only, were being judged primarily, if not entirely, on our chronically absent students. That's it. And that score made up 35% of your total score as a school. I want you to think about that. In that domain, every school in Mesquite scored in the 90s, and yet we had schools rated as low as F in that domain. We even had one school get a distinction for attendance in the accountability system we use today and get a D in that category for chronically absent students. That's simply unacceptable, and it created the bell curve I told you it would create. The third domain was even more concerning to me. In the third domain, under this idea that A through F would create transparency, they actually used calculations of algebraic formulas involving slope-intercept. Now you go and try to explain that to a parent. That is not something that is transparent. I have argued and will continue to argue that what we need in the system is something similar to the private school accreditation process. I would encourage you to look at that, because through that process we tell our story. Mesquite family, I want you to know how proud I am of you. In a district that has 75% of its students at free and reduced, we're graduating 94% of our students, and 60% of them are going off to college or universities. That is something to be proud of. That is something to be exclaimed. Do not let this A through F system slow us down. Do not let it affect your morale, and most importantly, don't let it affect the morale of our students. They're worth far more than a letter grade based on one test. I want to encourage you again to contact our legislators, to let them know how you feel, and do all that you can using the power of your vote to make certain they understand that this is unacceptable.